Hi, I am creating this video as I promised to show you how simple the configuration of the final exam was. We will go through all the steps from the final exam, and hopefully at the end you will see that this exam is not that difficult as you probably think it was. I will not cover the first part of the document because you are already familiar with it, and you should know that we are supposed to configure blue devices, so blue switch and blue router. Let's go to our first task. Our first task is to discover what ports switch SW uses to connect to other networking devices. So I am at my switch SW and I will use CDP because LLDP is either not supported or not enabled by default. So we can try CDP. If CDP is not working, we can try LLDP. I will go and do show CDP neighbors. Okay, and I see that my switch is connected via fuzzy turn 0/9 and fuzzy turn 0/8 to some catalyst device, so it is switch 3750 and it's probably ISP SW switch. Why I can't see router? Because as I said, or as is stated at the first part of the document, router and switch are in the default configuration, so they were reloaded, they were not configured yet, and for router default configuration means that all of its ports are down. So to see which port on my switch is connected to router, I have to go to router and type no shutdown on its port. Now it is fuzzy turn 0/1 because it is stated right in a logical topology. So I am going to router. I will go to interface fuzzy turn 0/1 and just type no shutdown. Now my port will come up. Great, it is up, and just now this port will send and receive CDP messages. So I had to do it because without sending CDP messages I can see where my router is connected. It is not physical problem because these devices were correctly connected with cables, but the problem was that port that is shut down is not sending CDP messages. So now the port is up. I will go show CDP neighbors, and now I can see that my router is connected to my fuzzy turn 0/24 and via its fuzzy turn 0/1. So task 1 is completed. Second task. As you can see in this task table, we have to configure Ether channel. It is stated that we have to use IEEE developed negotiation protocol. So as you probably know, we have two protocols for creating Ether channel, PAGP and LACP. PAGP is Cisco proprietary protocol, so we have to use LACP, which is open standard developed by IEEE. I have to use fuzzy turn 0/9 and 0/8, which I know from show CDP neighbors from first task. Okay, so I will go to configuration mode and I will use interface range to go to both ports at once. Fuzzy turn 0/8 space and then 9. If you will not use a space, you will get an error, so you have to use spaces. Okay, so I am at these ports and I will type channel group. I will use 1. It's just locally significant, so it doesn't matter which channel group I am using on the other side, so doesn't matter, I will use first one. So channel group 1 mode, and now we can see which modes there are. Thinking as a student, I don't know how is the other side configured. What if the other side is passive and is just waiting for me to do some action? So to be sure, I will set this mode as active. So I will be actively trying to create an Ether channel. In reality, I also use this active at my ISP SW switch, but this is just saying what would I do if I was student and I wouldn't know how the other side is configured, so I will use active. Great. Now this Ether channel is up. To create a trunk interface, I will go to interface port channel 1, because now it is separate interface, and I will type switch port mode trunk. Now I created trunk via this Ether channel. Excellent. So task number 2 is completed. Task number 3 is about shutdowning all unused switch ports. So again, I will scroll up to see my show CDP neighbors, and we can see that I am using 3 ports. Now I will use show IP interface brief command just to see what switch ports I have on this switch, because it can be 48 port switch or something like that. So I can see I have 24 fuzzy Ethernet switch ports and then 2 gigabit Ethernet switch ports. I have to shut down all of them except fuzzy Ethernet 0/8, 0/9 and 0/24, and of course my Ether channel. So I am going to configuration mode, and once again I will use range. So interface range command, interface range, and now fuzzy Ethernet 0/1 to this is 8, so to 7. Fuzzy Ethernet 0/10. Just make sure. Okay, 0/10 to 23, and then gigabit Ethernet 0/1 and 2. Great. I am at all of the port at once, and I will do shutdown. Excellent. Now all of unused switch ports are shut down. So task number 3 is completed. Okay, so step 4. I have to disable DTP negotiation. So basically I don't want my switch to negotiate any trunk parameters via DTP. Once again, I have to know which ports I am using. So I am using fuzzy Ethernet 0/8, 0/9, 0/24 and port channel 1. Okay, we will start with interface fuzzy I will use range again, fuzzy Ethernet 0/8 and 9, and I will turn off any negotiation with switch port no negotiate command. Great. Now, why I didn't include 24? Well, let's see if I will use interface fuzzy Ethernet 0/24 and I will type a switch port no negotiate. You can see that switch rejected this command. Then I can show you in running configuration that really in fuzzy Ethernet 0/8 and 0/9 it worked, but in 0/24 we can see this command in a running configuration. So really this command was rejected by switch, and it's because you have to choose if this port is access port or trunk port. You cannot have it set to dynamic status as which is default behavior and default configuration. So if you will read this final exam a little further, you can see that router R should be router on the stick. So router on the stick is using trunk port which is connected to switch. Okay, so I know that my switch is connected to router via this fuzzy Ethernet 0/24, and that this router is router on the stick. So I should configure this port as trunk port. So switch port mode trunk. Excellent, and now I can restrict this port to use DTP. So I will type switch port, no negotiate. Great. Excellent, but don't forget we have one more port, and it's Ether channel port. So I will go to interface port channel 1, which is my Ether channel port, and I will type switch port, no negotiate. If you forgot to include this interface, I would give you the points, but only if you were like just on the edge of passing or failing, so I don't know, 65%. Okay, so this task is completed. The task number 5 is the task we don't usually include. As you will be reading router tasks, you can see that a router should be in VLAN that is way higher than 1000, around 2000. If you are familiar with VLAN trunking protocol, you should know that using VLAN higher than 1000, you have to set your VTP mode on switch to transparent. So this is the information you should know from your studies, and it's not usually included in our task because, well, you should know it, and once you see VLAN number higher than 1000, you have to go to your switch and change the mode to transparent. But we don't want to make it way too hard for you. That's why we included it. It is as separate task. It is just one little command. So to change VTP mode of my switch to transparent, I will use VTP mode transparent. Excellent. So task number 5 is completed. Finally, we are at our last task on our switch. This is the only task we are specifically saying use this type of configuration, and we are not just looking at the result, but we are looking at this configuration, because you have to use just single command to configure switch to automatically treat all present and future access ports as STP edge ports. Again, it is just one simple command, and it is spanning tree port fast, which is basically configuring edge ports or port fast ports, and default. So all ports or access ports will be port fast ports by default from now on. And finally, I got to configure my router. So the first task on the router is to configure it as a router on the stick, and I should use interface or subinterface fast10.0/1.1. The subinterface should be in the VLAN, which default spanning tree bridge priority is 34,970. Okay, so it's a big number, and how should you know which VLAN should you use? You most probably know that this bridge priority is from two parts: configurable bridge priority and VLAN number. But how you should know the default bridge priority? Well, you can Google it or you can learn it, but you have this like brain capacity to know all these default numbers. I can show you more simple task, or more simple way to find out the default bridge priority. As you know, this switch was in default state, so most probably it will be using VLAN 1. I will go to show spanning tree VLAN 1, and now you can see that bridge priority is 32,769, which priority is 32,768 plus VLAN number 1, so plus this 1. Excellent. So now I will use calculator, and I will type there 34,970, which is from my task, and I will subtract this number, so this priority, which is 32,768. Excellent. And now you can see that you have to use VLAN number 2202. Great, so without googling it or learning it, you can use your switch and show command, and this easily you can find out which VLAN number you should use. So I will go back to my router, I will go to subinterface FuzzyTernet 0/1.1, I will type encapsulation.1q and now VLAN number 2202. Excellent. And now I will use my logical topology from PDF, and I will configure IP address 192.168.101.1, and the mask should be 255.255.255.0. Excellent. There is no reason to type no shutdown. I can do it, but it doesn't change anything. I already turn on my FuzzyTernet 0/1 port just so I can use CDP on my switch. But if you didn't do that, you should do it now. So if you didn't turn on your port, so you should go here to your physical port FuzzyTernet 0/1 and type no shutdown. I don't have to do it because, as I said, I did it because of CDP in our very first task. Great, so just this easy, and we are in 1/3 of router configuration. Continuing with the second task, we should configure EIGRP in Autonomous System 100. I can tell you up front that although we will configure it correctly, it will not work because there is some configuration missing. But let's just configure EIGRP, and then we will search where this is this missing configuration and how can we correct it. So router EIGRP 100 network 192.168.101.0, and I can hit enter, and because of classful behavior it will work, or I can use wildcard mask, so this way. You can leave auto summarization on by default, or you can turn it off. Doesn't matter in this scenario, but I am always turning off auto summarization. So no auto summary, but again this step is not necessary. You can do it or cannot, it will not have any impact on this network. Excellent. Now we can wait minute, 2 or 3, and you can see that we can't see anything in our routing table. And why is that? To find out what is happening, we have to go back to CCNA2. You should already know that in order to switch passing information from some VLAN via its trunk link, the switch have to know about this VLAN. So I will go to switch and type show interface trunking. So great, and we see that all VLANs are allowed on the trunk, but just VLAN number 1 is active. That's because we didn't say this switch about VLAN 2202. So the only thing we have to do is type VLAN 2202. Wait a little, and we can show interface trunking, and here you go. This VLAN is of course allowed like before, but now it is active in our management domain. So just now this switch can exchange information about, with data from VLAN 2202 via its trunk links. Now we have to wait a little. Oh, and here we go. Neighbor change. Our EIGRP connection is now up. So show IP route, and excellent, we can see we are receiving information from our EIGRP neighbor. But yes, of course, we can now write down this prefix, so 2.3.5.7/32. This is the prefix we received from our EIGRP neighbor. But we also have to find out what is an advertised distance of this network. So to find it out, we have to go to show IP EIGRP topology, and from this show command we need to use this information. So this is feasible distance and this is advertised or reported distance, and we have to write down this number. So once again, we will write down as information to question 1 prefix 2.3.5.7/32, and our advertised or reported distance is 128.256. And that's all for task number 2 on router R. And finally, the last task. We have to find out what is the IP address of our EIGRP neighbor. In fact, I don't have to do anything. I have all on my screen right now, and our EIGRP neighbor is 192.168.101.222. But if we want to check once more via some other show command, we can use do show IP EIGRP neighbor, and we can see once again that we have our EIGRP neighbor with IP address 192.168.101.222. Or we can use show IP route command, and again once more we can see information about our neighbor. So the last task is just to find out what is its IP address, and we have numerous show commands which can display it. Pick your favorite, or just use show IP route or show IP EIGRP neighbors and copy that address as answer to question number 2. And if we want to be totally correct on a router, we should configure banner, message of the day, and type answer to question number 1, prefix, and it was 2.3.5.7/32. Advertised distance, okay, it was 128.256. Great. And answer to question number 2 is 192.168.101.222. Great. Asterisk. And we are all done. This was our last task, to configure banner with our answers to question 1 and question 2. So we are at the end of this video, and hopefully you will agree with me that this final exam wasn't too hard or wasn't unnecessary hard. It all took maybe 30 minutes or so, and I was explaining every step. As I was preparing this final exam and I was doing this configuration, it took me somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes to configure it, as I was reviewing if everything is working as expected for all of the ports used for this exam. And truth to be said, all of us here in Instructor Training Center thinks that this final exam was well below our average. most of the time we are preparing way harder exams for our instructors here in Slovakia because we feel responsible for the quality of the networking academy program here in Slovakia, as we are the biggest instructor training center and the only academy support center in Slovakia. So I'm very sorry that you wasn't successful. Maybe the main difference was that those instructors in Slovakia went through our training that it's not easy. It's pretty hard training, but again, we need to keep this level high as we as instructor training center are responsible for quality. Hopefully this video will make some change for you. Maybe you will be able to prepare better for the next try. So I hope this video was informative for you. Please let me know if it helped or not, and I hope to hear from you again.